There wasn't a lot of joy when I look back at those times, almost none. There's no place where I felt comfortable, whether it was school or at home. Even my first foster dad in my last house, he was a drunk, he used to beat me. Watching him beat my mom, so happy wasn't a thing.
Anthony is a former NFL player, America Ninja Warrior. Now he's a best-selling author. So how do I just stop all the noise, stop all the commotion, and actually define the identity? Because unless we have that definition, we're not going to follow the right people, are we?
You have to set your own scale, your own identity. What do you want it to be? What do you want it to be comprised of? How you want it to show up? You have to actually define that. And then what you start doing is listening to the outside voices a little bit different. And look at this guy that has a Ferrari and a Bentley and the Gucci, right? And I go, man, I want those things. But you may also go, I don't like how you operate. So what most people do is they cast him aside. I go, don't do that. Because what happens is regardless of how they got there, which means there's something to learn.
You're listening to the Real Business Connections Network. Real Business Connections Network. Powered by Balbert Marketing, LLC. Subscribe now and check us out at realbusinessconnections.com. Enjoy the show.
Welcome, everyone, once again to Learn, Speak, Teach on the Real Business Connections Network. I'm here today with the amazing, awesome, the cool Anthony Trucks. What's up, brother?
Nothing much. Cool, amazing. I like that. I'll take those. I'll take those adjectives. Aren't those what those are? Descriptive words?
Dude, I did not plan what I was going to say, and I'm like, this is a cool guy. You're amazing. You went through a lot of shifts. I do like to kind of give a little bit of context for the listener. So Anthony is a former NFL player, America Ninja Warrior. He's made an incredible transformation from some really challenging early life issues, foster care system, to becoming a renowned speaker, leader, identity shift coach. Now he's a best-selling author, and he's dedicating to helping others achieve their full potential as well by guiding them through their own identity shifts. I love his podcast, All Shift and Shift Starter. And if anybody doesn't know you, man, they're going to get to know you well today, and you're going to bring a lot of value. I'm confident in that.
So am I, man. I like to give ideas and words. So I'm excited to see what this turns into for folks.
So I don't even know the percentage, but NFL player, that's probably a 0.0001% chance to even make the practice squad. It's such an accolade. Is that what you wanted to be when you were a kid? How'd you get to start in athletics?
I just wanted to be happy as a kid, dude. I was a foster kid, man, and my mom gave me away, and I dealt with heinous stuff. It's pretty hectic system, that whole foster care world, and it's still not much better than it was before. But I got 14 years old. I finally got adopted after 11 years in the system, and I had a shot to go do something. So I wanted to go and try out the sport of football, which I went and tried. It was not good in the beginning, which is how we all start things. And then through a journey, eventually got better. Football, playing at an NFL level, was never a goal for me until I was maybe a junior year of college, to be quite honest. But wow. I did not grow up going I want to play professional sports by any means. I just wanted to be happy.
Dude, we'll talk about sports, but let's go foster care. 14 years of your life. 11? My mistake. What was that like?
Oh, it's bad. It's
bad.
I had to deal with some things. I was starved by some people and some families. I was forced to chase chickens to earn meals and stuff. It was super weird. I was putting shopping carts pushed down hills towards moving traffic just as a game. I was forced to lick the bottom of people's shoes until my tongue bled, just out of just their own desire to see somebody just squirm. And so I dealt with a lot of things. This was all before 6 years old, by the way. And then, you bounce around from house to house. In my sixth house, which is my final home, my family now, it was different. We were really poor, though, didn't have much. We had love, and lived in kind of a rickety house with a bunch of mice and cockroaches, but it was home. And so for me, my upbringing was this one where at a certain point, I thought that it was normal to be beaten, normal to be that was normal, because all I knew as a kid until I was, 6 or 7. And then I thought, because you didn't have social media back in the day, I'm like, oh, we're good. And then you start seeing the rest of the world, you go, man, we're kind of poor. We don't have much. We're the ones that are getting clothes from Goodwill, because I realized someone donated those, and then Goodwill donated to us. I'm like, we don't got very much, right? So you start realizing that you're not worth much. So a lot of my life, I was like, I'm just not worth much. I don't deserve much, because I'm not worthy of it. I'm just, again, not worth it. And so you operate with that internal programming, and you start to live life in a way that makes that statement right, which is not correct. So for me, foster care was a really interesting place to begin my life because I began from behind the ball. And if you look at statistics too, 75% of prison inmates in American prisons are former foster kids. Half our homeless population spent time in foster care, and I think less than 1% of us graduate from college. And it's because I think we don't believe we're worth much. And the world kind of sometimes tells us that. And so what ends up happening is we run through this thing called life with this already installed programming of you kind of suck.
Wow. Daunting stats. And you mentioned right in the start, all you really wanted to be was happy. What did you do to have, fulfillment, happiness in your life during those times where there's all the reason? I mean, you were a victim. You actually were. What did you do to be happy, man?
I don't know if I did. I think you just endure. That's it. You just have to endure it. There wasn't a lot of joy when I look back at those times. Almost none. There's no place where I felt comfortable, whether it was school or at home. Even my first foster dad in my last house, he was a drunk. He used to beat me. It was just, I remember watching him beat my mom. Like, it's just, you just see these things. This is the normalcy. So happy wasn't a thing. That's why I wanted it so bad. That's why it comes so quickly to my mouth. People go, what was it like? What did you want back then? I go, I just want to be happy, man. Because you live in darkness. I mean, I lived in darkness my formative years, literally my entire, up through 14, which is when you're finally kind of coming out of that stage of, developing yourself and how you see yourself. It's like this role versus identity kind of thing. What's my role in the world? What's my true identity? And you're battling it at that point. And I got all the way to that point and had it, somehow broke it over the years. But yeah, man, it wasn't something where I was joyful and did things for happiness. And I think that's what led me to football. Was it looked like something that could be like I was on. Here's the thing: the little parts of happy I do recall was when I would be at recess and all my my classmates, they played football, had a jersey on. I couldn't play because my foster care system was my biological mom wouldn't let me play. So I'm watching these kids all play for years and years and years, never getting a chance. But on the practice field or in recess, I'm murdering these kids. I'm out there, hitting them and catching balls and making them all look stupid and juking them right. I'm doing my thing. And so I got something I couldn't play. And so I go, man, it'd be great to be able to. So I think when I finally got adopted at 14, after having, a moment where I had to sever the parental rights of my biological mom in court, that gave me this chance to go try something I could be better at. And here's the crazy thing too, is I tried it and I sucked at it. So I wasn't even happy there. It was the first time I started playing football was bad because we all have that. We have an affinity for something, this thought of what it could be, this view of it, this amazing, grandiose vision of it's going to be, can't wait to be an entrepreneur, a podcast, it's going to be great. And then you go, this sucks. And it's not that it actually sucks, it's that your skill set, because you're new, you suck at it. And then you don't have this joy around it, but you don't realize that everybody starts that way. And so for me, that was kind of how foster care worked for me. Getting happy was trying something. Eventually, obviously got great at football, very happy playing the game, love the game. But as a kid, there wasn't much that made me happy back then.
So I got a foster care question, and then I got a football question. I got two running through my mind right now.
Yeah, man, let it run.
Foster care, without foster care, there's a lot of people at home that might be going through a really dark time. Home life, family life, bad situation. Yep. What did you wish you knew back then that you know now?
Smooth seas never made skilled sailors.
Expand on that, brother.
I got a painting over here. I got a tattoo. You can't see. It's a ship on my arm. And so when I'm going through it, you don't like it. You hate it. Obviously, there's a lot of things we hate. But I can tell you this, man. I vastly, vastly appreciate my childhood. I would never change any part of it. And the reason's because at this point in my life, I have the things that a person needs to have that you can't see that allow me to create a life that you can see. That's amazing, that I enjoy. There are things that operate in terms of my brain, my framing, my positioning of how I show up in any situation that is so vastly different from most people that it allows me to have so much more than they have in terms of joy, peace, the ability to forgive, if you want to call it material things too. I have a cool life, but it's because when I get faced with hardships, I've traversed the rough seas before. So this sea isn't that rough to me. So for other people, when they didn't have those rough seas, or they had a smooth sea, when they get to the part of life where they have, now rocky, things go crazy as an adult, they're not very skilled sailors. And my skill as a sailor, having survived and endured that, allows me to be able to apply it in positive ways now to create a really cool life where even if it does get rocky, when most people are like, holy crap, and they're under the deck of the boat and they're freaking out, holding on to the mast, and I'm on the top sipping some tea, screaming at the rain, bro. Like, I got this. It's a whole different sense. So when I look at those moments, I go, gosh, well, I didn't like them. And all of us have them in some place. Like, I appreciate what it did to create who I am.
That's profound, man. You got this. And you're reminding me, I can't remember who I'm stealing this quote from, but you're kind of like taking your struggle. You're a great example of this. You took your struggle and you turned it into luggage. You're like, I have this, I'm taking it with me, and I'm happy I went through it. And you had mentioned you went through a big shift when foster care to starting to play football. You're like, ooh, it feels good to kind of hit somebody, and you're catching balls, you're probably dropping balls. Well, what? Yeah. You weren't good at the front. Like, what was the moment? Do you remember a time or a series of times where you're like, dude, like, I actually think I might have a future in this thing. Like that. I really love this.
You know, I didn't. So you turned the question in a place I've never had anybody turn it, which is good. And I'm glad you did, because nobody does. I usually got to take it there. So I did not believe I had a future. Just, you know, it wasn't a part where. So the moment that I realized I had a future was my, I think, junior year, when I of high school, first got a college offer, like a scholarship potential offer to go play football, and they pay for it. Now, I come from a family where no one goes to school. Like, I'm the only one of my 6 siblings in that family that even has a high school diploma, having not been a GED, and have a college degree. None of my siblings do, like not my cousins, and none of them, like nobody. And so I live in this bubble, and I'm the foster kid. I'm the black, poor foster kid that, you know, like wasn't supposed to do much. And people go, how did that happen? Because it wasn't an environmental thing. Nobody asked me and pushed me to do it. But now is the question I think leans in is I got to this point where I go, I don't like the trajectory of my life. I don't like how it's going. I'm a guy that my adoptive mom is now sick, and the family's focused on her. I feel like a waste of space. That this game I loved, I suck at, because I played 2 years, I was horrible at it. And I go, I don't like it. And then I had this moment where I kind of was like, well, I don't believe I'm great at the game and have a future in it. I realize if I don't do anything to change my trajectory of life, I'm going to go to a place I don't want to be. I could look far enough down the road and go, where I'm headed, I don't want to go there. So something has to change. So people go, well, why'd you start working so hard and building? Because there was a season of my life between freshman and sophomore year of high school where I had this girl say something, and she says in a classroom that I overheard her. She goes, the reason I'm so bad is because I'm in foster care. It was that little statement that kind of like shook my soul a little bit. And I go, ooh, that's a really crappy thing to hear. Because I thought in my head, I go, that's what I'm saying to myself. I go, I don't like how that sounds. I got to change something. I didn't know what to do, but I knew this. This was the belief. People go, well, how'd you believe you're going to be great at football? Oh, I did not. There's no reason to believe that. But I did believe if I did nothing, nothing would change. So I go, what's the harm in doing something? So I believe doing something would make it a little bit better. I didn't know how much better, but it made it a little bit better. So I started working towards this thing, which catching footballs, running routes, lifting weights. And people make fun of you because it's weird. This is not what you typically do. And it's a weird little battle. So you're battling the sense of I don't do this, and other people going, yeah, you don't do that. So it's this natural kind of like crappy feeling, but I did it. And the more you deposit into that, the more it becomes who you are. I work in identity. And this is how you actually optimize your identity. I call it dark work. When I exit a 7-month window of lifting and running and doing all these things, catching footballs, 500 football catches a day. When I got to the football field, there was a different animal inside of me. And what it was I have done too much work in the dark to lose in the light. It was guttural. There was no way you're tackling me. No way. That's my football. I don't care if they threw it at you. And so when that was rooted in my soul, I had this desire to compete. And that was the thing that turned me into the guy that was making plays and doing stuff. And so I did it my sophomore year. I was like, this is good. Did it my junior year. And all of a sudden, people were like, this dude is good. And it wasn't because I was the fastest, because I wasn't, the biggest, because I wasn't, or even the most skilled. This is only my 3rd year ever playing the game, right? When I get to my sophomore year of high school, it's 3rd year ever, 4th year. I got teammates that I'm playing with that have been playing since they were 7 years old, you know? But what it was, I had a dog in me that you couldn't put away. Like I was not going into the kennel, man. And that dog had a place to run. And so when you say, when I believe it was to be a future in it, was when a guy shows up and goes, hey, I'm with a college. I can't remember what the first one was, but one of the ones I remember was the University of Oregon. A guy named Don Pelham comes in And he came in and said, I saw some film, I liked you, went and watched the game. He made fun of how I kept pulling my socks up after every play. But he goes, hey, we like you. We'd love to give you an opportunity to offer a scholarship to come play football. And that's when it became real. I'm like, oh, this is serious. Like, I'm actually good enough to where people want me to go play college and pay for me to do it. This is what my family does. My family doesn't go to college. Like, I'm the only athlete, you know? So that was kind of where the future came in. But what built it was that dark work experience, which is actually what all my work is centered around now, because all of us can attest to a moment in time when we subjected ourselves or were subjected to a window where it was a length of time of hard, unsexy, ridiculed, or even misunderstood work. That reason, we even got made fun of as the reason we're great now. So people come back around and go, God, you really did that, didn't you? I did. Or at least you know you got the job, got the promotion, got the guy, got the girl, got your life back on track, whatever it is. But you didn't do that with people going, well done, every single day. It was you getting up, doing your thing, going to sleep, and nobody knew about it. But you knew about it.
I want to talk more about this dark work and go deeper. Literally a couple episodes ago, I was talking to Phyllis. She goes by the Ghetto Country Brandmother, but her and I were talking about the Black Mamba and the Black Mamba brand, where Kobe Bryant loves you. Kobe Bryant will shake your hand. Black Mamba's going to slaughter you.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jordan's going to make up stories about you talking to his girl just so he can go out and ball out and slaughter you. Why? Tell us a little bit about that. Like, someone who isn't an athlete, I'm not a good athlete. Someone who isn't in that might not quite understand what is happening here. What is happening?
They may not understand it, and it's not for everybody to understand. I'm not saying I'm not going to try to make you understand. I'm just saying some people aren't supposed to, and it's not always an athletic thing. It could be a business thing as well. It could be you could be the best airplane piloter of I don't know, an RC airplane. It doesn't matter what it is. The truth of it is some people will not understand it because there's not this. I have a sickness inside of me when I lose. That's it. That's for me. I think what part of it is I think human beings were wired to compete. We just are. That's why we get the comparison syndrome, because we're just naturally like looking at something going, and we not notice it, but you're competing in your head, at least. We're wired to compete. And I go, if I'm going to compete now, I don't want to lose. And so whatever I got to do to give me the best chance to not lose, I'm going to do that. And I'll tell you this, the place that most people arrive at in the moment of definition, defining moments, it draws and it forces you to have to draw something out of you that is capable of overcoming the situation. And that doesn't come from a joyous place. If you think about the moment in time, fourth quarter, end of the game, is the last putt for Tiger Woods to get right. You're not looking at them. They're going, "You got this." Yeah,
high five.
You know, they're in this down, hunkered. Their eyes they're almost like this. They're not there. Like they're somewhere else. You're watching them. They're physically there, but their mind is in this other place. And what they're doing is they're drawing on their darkness. They're drawing on all that stuff they did that you never saw them do that tells them there's no effing way. I'm about to lose this right now. And they don't have to state it. Every cell in their body knows it. And so when you talk about you shook their hand, they didn't like you. It wasn't that they didn't like you. They didn't like the idea of what you could do to stop them from winning. That's what it was. It was just, I thought the idea of you beating me, that disgusts me, right? So if you're the idea, then right now I don't like you. So I'm going to create a story, whatever it is, to get me to be able to tap into that darkness so I can pull what's out. Because Jordan knew. He may not have stated it, but he knew when he made that story up in the Last Dance, he knew that that's what he had to do to get to that place. And if you get to that place, here's the hard part. Some people are afraid of that place. People don't like going there.
Why?
They don't know. Because there's not a relationship with the darkness, and they think the darkness is bad. They think if I think this about somebody, it's a bad thing. You don't have to actually execute in the thing your brain is thinking. You may want to kill this person, but you don't got to do it. But if that's what it takes, like here, when I used to run 40s in the NFL, preparing to go there, I had to run a 40. In my head, I would picture my son at the far side of the 40-yard line, and I had to get to him as fast as I could. Now, in your head, you're going, a picture of a kid and I'm burning. It's not that. I took myself to a place where I, at my core, believed my son was in excruciating pain. His flesh was being burned. And if I didn't get there, I can't get to my son. And I'm going to be the one that's at fault for him having a disfigurement for the rest of his life. Do you see that it's a different thing than like, oh, my son's on fire. There's a place you take into And I'm doing that because I know that I need to get there to pull out of me the last 6 years of me preparing for the single day for all these NFL scouts to watch me do my absolute best. And if I don't go there and get that guy to come with me, it's going to be a problem because they think that that's bad to get there. But until you do, you're leaving your full power on the table. It's a problem. And you don't even realize it. You go, I can be in a nice space and do my thing. You can't. You cannot perform at your best with super joy. In the moments that matter, I've never seen anybody. It's like I've never seen a high-level competitive human who is not in that hunkered place, in that dark place inside, tapping into it when it matters most. They're always, I don't care if you're behind a steering wheel, they're watching their eyes, they're dialed in, right? There's something that takes over that comes from a dark place. And here's the thing. Most people don't go there because they're scared of it being an empty room.
Mm.
They didn't deposit. They didn't do the dark work. So when they go to their darkness, there's nothing there. And that's, I think, where most of the fear is for people, because why they have the imposter syndrome. I have never known a professional athlete or a professional human that has spent years and years and years. You think Tom Brady went on the football field and goes, I don't know if I can do this. No, hell no. He's like, bro, let me loose. Like, just let me out, right? Because I know what I did. So when you have imposter syndrome, immediately red flag go, you didn't do enough in the dark. That's what it is. You're not afraid of what could go wrong. You're afraid that you don't know if you'll earn it and deserve it, or if you'll be able to tap into the darkness to get what needs to be done out of you when it comes time to win it. So you might lose and hate yourself because you know this. So people don't want to go there. And then they don't develop a relationship. That person's a stranger to you. See, Kobe knew that person. He lived in that person. He that came out every day. It was his homeboy, intimate relationship. And when you have that develop with yourself, you're unstoppable. Like I literally believe that you will not, because unstoppable doesn't mean you always win. Doesn't mean you always accomplish and achieve. You just won't stop. And the person that won't stop has a higher possibility statistically of accomplishing something. That's why people who can tap into that can stockpile that room of a whole bunch of dark work days, and I call them dark work deposits. They can draw on something different in real time. And that's why when I said earlier, you might not understand it, it's okay, because here's the truth. And no one likes this honest truth. Your hero probably doesn't want to hang out with you. And you go, what are you talking about? They're nice people. Well, I know they're nice people. But when you get around the human person, you see the facade of what they've accomplished. You love that they got the jerseys and the rings in their house. But if it was the two of you and you go get a workout in, there's certain things you wouldn't even know you're doing that would disgust them. Some word would fly to your mouth like, we got to do that. If we're sitting here doing something, you go, I got to do that. In my head, I go, get out of the weight room. Like, you don't belong here with me then. Yeah, it's what's on the paper. We're going to do this because that's what's going to make us better. I don't want to do that. I hate that. Personally, I hate that. So people think it's bad when they look at the average person looks at the idol and they knock them. They say, never meet your heroes. It's not because your hero's an asshole. They're not really bad people. Now, yes, some might be, right? Mm-hmm. But most people, they seem like that because they give you feedback that you don't want to hear. But the truth is, you don't want to hear it because you're not at the level they're at, but you admire them because of the level they're at. So these little things become parts that people don't grasp. That person did the dark work to be able to shine in the light, and you're going to come in the light with me and you didn't do what I did? Nah, bro, sorry. I can't function with you. And so while you might like watching me, what I've accomplished, me and you can't spend time together. And that's okay. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means that human, the way they develop themselves, the way they think and process, it is levels above yours. Unless you climb those levels, you better get clear in the fact that they're going to knock you back down to yours.
Powerful, man. One thing that stood out to me is you mentioned unstoppable. Doesn't mean you always win. It means you don't stop. But you talk about shifting all the time. Like, for example, let's say I'm running. I'm going to get in better shape because I'm running. But if I'm running in the wrong direction, I'm still going to have to turn my ass around and run in the right direction to get to where I'm trying to go. At what point do I stop and shift? Because if you're unstoppable, but if you're doing the wrong shit, you're never going to get anywhere because you're unstoppable at, being... I was going to give an example, but I don't want to shame anybody. There's certain roles where they work really freaking hard, but they never obtain wealth and fulfillment and build a life of their dreams because they're working a 9-to-5 and they're working hard work, but they're unstoppable going in the wrong direction, possibly.
Yeah, it's a big piece of it.
Does this make sense? You know more about this than me.
Yeah. No, the thing that I found is there's a lot of people. So habits. So I want to get new habits. I got to put new habits in. I got to start doing tracks. Great books on it. There's a few great books I could list off. And what they failed to put in the books, which is not that it's a fail, it's the wrong language. They didn't go this far in their work. Their work is in one specific area that's phenomenal, that adds into my work, which is if I develop amazing habits, I know all about how to create and install them. What we don't go is what kind of identity is that habit creating?
Right.
Because all the things we're talking to is you say going hard the wrong direction. If you have an inkling of what the right direction is, you're going to be fine. But the problem is you can attain or sustain anything above your current identity. I don't care what much amount of money you want, whatever it is, because you say they're working really hard. That's your relative level of hard. Your level of hard may not be the level of what the dream desires or demands. And so you may be going, I'm giving my all. Well, your all sucks. I'm sorry. Compared to the dream you want.
Okay.
Not that you suck. If you want this thing, perfect amount of effort. Great, right? But you want that identity you have to become and shift into through daily dark work actions. That identity is above you. So it's going to be more than what your version of hard work is. And I'm not going to say I'm sorry. That's just the case because the person that has that, the identity that has that, has done that work to get there. They've earned it. They get to have it. And so when we sit back and I go, I want to have it, I'm working real hard. It's not that it's the wrong direction. It's that you may have got to the capped out end of your capabilities and the dreams outside of your current identity. Now you go, but I want to have it. Great. Let's take a step back and analyze what are the things you got to do? Because here's also what they don't, with the habit stuff talk about is, are you creating a habit that's not the habit you need to create? So maybe I want to do certain things and I want to wake up in the morning and do this. Okay, great. But you know what your issue is? It's not that you don't have certain things in place. It's that you're a horrible communicator or you are not good at strategy or you start and stop too often. Now you can work on anything else you want to work on. But if you don't work on those things, and those are key traits of the identity that has what you want, you could run yourself ragged for the next 50 years and never access your goal. Because you didn't step back and do this. A guy named Tim Murphy said it. It says, it's hard to see the label when you're inside of the jar. Mm. Now, I didn't create that. I love the language though. But the jar you're in is it's your life. And there's a label that you can't typically see. So you keep doing the wrong stinking work, wondering, when do I get there? Because you haven't actually had somebody tell you what your label is, or you have and you didn't like what you heard. So you cut the person off. You call them a hater. This person don't support me. No, they love you enough to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And your response was, oh, I want to listen to you. So you went off and kept doing your same thing and you cut off a lifeline of someone who is willing to tell you what you needed to hear. So yes, you can run 50 years in the wrong direction, but it's not that's the wrong direction. It's just the wrong action for you to take. But if you can get someone to give you the insight and you finally open your heart, drop your ego and listen to it and go, God, I got to do that. And then you lean in, you might go, this is really hard. No crap, Sherlock. That just is. But it's your version of hard that you must do, but it's in the direction of the identity that has what you want most. Because again, even if you got it, if you don't have the identity, you'll lose it. So attain and sustain is necessary. But here's the gift in all this. People go, so heavy, man. This makes me not want to work. Dude, how do we do all this, right? I go, look, right now is a set point of how we function. Life feels smooth. I call it effortless effort. I can get up and live this life. Now, my life is at ticks above many people's lives, just from the aspect of how I function, how I work, what I do. And they go, that's a lot to do. And I go, for me, it's just it's just Thursday, man. You know, this is my Thursday day. Some people go, that's all, you know, but I go, at one point I was where you were at. There was a lot, but I just learned to lift the weights of life. I stayed in the weight room and I kept strengthening. So what happens is where I'm talking about that higher level identity, it is hard to climb the mountain, but once you get to the top, it's like, it's easy. It literally becomes effortless effort to do what you're doing. It's hard in the beginning to do. Eventually, it's hard not to do whatever that thing is. It's so ingrained in you the same way certain things are ingrained in you currently right now to do that previous you would struggle doing. It's the same process and cycle you repeat at a higher level. Then you get there and now like, shoot, hey, life is good. And you have all these things you wanted. And there's not a bunch of same climbing stress. You're relaxing at the peak of the mountain, so to speak. And then here's the interesting, we'll take it a step further. I'm sorry, I'm keeping talking.
No, please.
Then you get to the top of the mountain, you go, oh, I didn't realize it was a false summit. You go, what do you mean, Ant? And I go, well, when I got there, I realized there's more peaks to climb. And I also realized I enjoy climbing more than I enjoy resting. And then when you get to that point of having that rhythm, you start finding out that the joy isn't to be at the arrival place and the destination. Because think about when I arrive at an airport, I'm not hanging in the airport. I'm still going out on a journey somewhere. I'm going to go keep doing things. Right. So really amazing lives are lived in motion. So once you get to the point of loving the motion, loving the process, you start to love life because you realize every day is motion, every day is process. And then it becomes this place where like you're shining in the light because of the dark work you did to get to that place and the dark work you continue to do to go to higher places.
Whew. Brother, can we go a layer? Are you open to go a layer deeper with me?
If you want to go, boss, we got a lot, man. Let's rock. Oh yeah, let's do it. What you want? We cover it up, man. You got me wide open, dog.
Here's the thing, because the main question really is, how do you define your identity? Because if we don't have a definition of who you want to learn from and what that identity is, it's kind of hard to know where to go. But where we go a layer deeper is I feel like it's kind of easy to follow the wrong people.
Hell
you
yeah,
know,
it
you
is.
see people that have the perfect Instagram model girlfriend and the perfect car, and they're miserable people and they're shallow people and they're unhappy people, but they've convinced me that I want their life. So I'm going to go and I'm going to learn from them. And then I spend all this time again working hard, maybe being unstoppable, but running in the wrong direction because I've got the wrong person guiding me into the shithole, guiding me into hell rather than guiding me into a heavenly kind of place. It's easy to find myself in that place if I don't have a strong understanding of what my identity is. However, these people around me are trying to define my identity for me, telling me this is what I did, so this is what you should do. So how do I just like stop all the noise, stop all the commotion, and actually like define the identity? Because unless we have that definition, we're not going to follow the right people, are we?
I agree. You landed at the right point where I would go. You have to create, set your own scale, your own identity. What do you want it to be? What do you want it to be comprised of? How you want it to show up? You have to actually define that. And then what you'll start doing is listening to the outside voices a little bit differently. You'll understand which ones are in alignment with what you created in private of who you want to be. There's nothing wrong with that. But then we get to this dicey space because we go, I don't want to watch those people. But if we desire to have what they have, I go, well, I don't want to watch them, but I want to have what they have. And now we have to start parsing things out. And there's a way you can do this. The first thing is to go, who am I? Who do I want to be? We get clear on that. And once you have that idea, you go, okay, great. Where can I get the traits needed to help me understand who I need to be? Because who I need to be is the more important question. Now, I may look at this guy that has a Ferrari and a Bentley and the Gucci, right? And I go, man, I want those things. But you may also go, I don't like how you operate. So what most people do is they cast him aside. I go, don't do that. Because what happens is regardless of how they got there, which means there's something to learn. And if you throw the baby out with the bathwater, you're losing so many lessons that could be amazing for you to be able to grasp. But here's how you can do it. You don't have to take all of it. You can take a segment of that person's identity and go, I really like how they're able to create this amazing team. I hate how they operate with their wife and what their materialistic desires are, but they got this business. How does the business system work? What do they do differently here? And I want to pay attention. I may go through a funnel and figure it out. I may join a program and figure it out. I may ask some people that I see engaging with the brand because while I don't respect those parts of their life, gosh, I gotta respect the success they had here that I desire. Now, if I got that kind of success, I'm going to give back to kids, or I'm going to go and start an orphanage. Money is money. He wants a jet. I want to take jet out and help kids, right? It's whatever in the backside, but you cannot knock the hustle. So it's looking at someone going, what is my identity that I am? Can I need to be better? Where do I want to be? What do I want to have traits of my identity be comprised of? Great. Who can I find that as the traits I like of this? And then you just take those segments and you pop them in. But here's one that you can't do. People go, well, I'm just going to figure out my future self. Can't do it this way. Like literally scientifically based, you can't do it. There's a study done by UCLA called The Stranger Inside. And they put diodes on people's heads. They started asking them, hey, tell us about this person and be a person they knew. And then love would light up in the brain. They bring in pictures of strangers. Tell me about this person. How do you feel? And stranger would light up in the brain. And they asked them a question. Can you tell us about your future self? And stranger lit up in the brain.
Wow.
Because we don't have an intimate connection with who the person is. Merrill Lynch took this data, created something called Face Your Future. People invested 40% more in their retirements than ever before off of simply having them fast pace who they were going to be in the future, seeing a picture of themselves. So it's really about this future thing. We don't have a connection there. So as opposed to going, what would future Anthony do? I go, what would The Rock do? What would Oprah do? What would Elon Musk do? Right? Because you know the answer. And it may not be one that you go, God, I can't wait to do. You may be like, damn, it's going to be hella hard. It might be, but you know what it is. Now go do that trait. If you desire to have an identity that's in line with a section of their identity to have an outcome you desire.
Boom. Who are those people for you today, Anthony? Who are those people?
That's a few of them, man.
Yeah.
So one of them is The Rock, and it's not that I like want to have his body, but I like how he functions as a consistent. Like from what I gather, I know people that know him behind the scenes. He is the same in front and behind the camera. So I like the way that he aligns and how family centered. This dude could be traveling the world, laying down every lady in the world, but homeboy's got a wife and he's with his kids, and like he locks it down. And I love that about a human. So I look at traits like that of like if I could shake his hand, would I have the pride to look him in his eyes and know that I'm an equal man in terms of that part of my integrity? And so that keeps me aligned. Definitely God holds a place too of like, do I forgive and give grace and have patience, and am I able to swallow my pride and my ego to do what's best for the situation, right? That's a big piece. Great dads, like the Uncle Phils of the world, right? Do I have, and it's obviously a crafted fictional character, but there is a part of that I go, I like how that person shows up for their kids and has patience and grace and is present, right? So there's different people in different parts of my world. Business wise, I got buddies that are like, I got like Brendan Burchard's a buddy. And like I like how he functions in his business. Maybe not all parts of it because I'm a different human, but I go, I like how he functions in this manner. So I like to look at that and go, what would he do in this situation? So I'm casting out in moments usually what the future might be. And I go, who's a person who's where I want to go with this? What would they do? It'll inform me of an answer. And that answer is usually one that's not what I would think of. Usually it's not one I would come up with. And I go, God, all right, I don't want to do it. I got to do it if I want to be like that. And so I move myself into doing it. And then we go through the process of dark work. What is it? First hard to do becomes hard not to do. And I elevate my identity to that point of doing it. Now I get to have what that identity gets to have.
Powerful, man. Everybody click rewind. Listen to this twice. And baby, we talked about this. Like you make it to the NFL.
Yeah.
I know this from looking into you, but you get an injury. What happened? And then the follow-up question is you get this injury, you've got to shift, you've got to redefine yourself. You have to find a new identity of where you're going in the future. What the hell does that look like?
Yeah, man, it's tough because you have to go through a journey and every time you've been doing something for a long period of time and you wake up and you can't do it anymore. So for me, it was football. For some, it's the military. The relationship falls apart, you lose the job, you lose the business, maybe you start a business, right? You wake up and go, all this stuff that made me, that I'm nothing now. And it's because we have identified with the outcome of what the identity created. Repeat this. We identify as the outcome of what the identity created. So I looked at it and I go, I'm football. With no football, I'm nobody. And I took me years to figure out like, no, I've never been football. I've been the guy that was able to perform in a way to be successful at that outcome. And so for all of us, when you're going through this journey, we sometimes lose sight of the skill sets that we harbored that allowed us to have that outcome we were living. And so if you lost, so there's people that are like all about money. And if they go broke, they go, I suck, kill myself, I'm nothing. No, you were a person that built that. Now, maybe that person made a mistake, but if you built that, you could build it again.
Right.
Because you have that in you. It's not an accident typically. Or, maybe all of a sudden, like I'm a person that I'm an amazing, bull rider, and then I can't walk anymore. Like I'm nobody. No. There's traits that allowed you to get boldly onto that. What next bold thing can you try? So that's where I think people have to spend more time giving themselves grace and credit for the ability to have created whatever they did create, realizing they're not that thing. I give it as a metaphor of saying, there's trees and there's fruit, right? Most people believe they are the fruit. The fruit falls off the tree, it rots and it dies. They feel rotten and they want to die inside because I'm nothing, right? I go, no, you have never been the fruit. You have always been the tree. The tree created that fruit. And if you go back to tending to the tree and giving it the right nutrients, put it in the right sunlight, pruning the branches, you will create vastly sweeter and more abundant fruit than you ever did before.
So let's use you as a testimonial example of this, because it wasn't pretty at the start. You had to do some of that dark work. You had to have that identity shift. It was taken from you. What was your move? Like, what did you do? Like
I
did
broke
you
my life, bro?
You broke you. Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Came back to the NFL and I was the NFL guy. And who's Anthony without the NFL? It was nobody.
Yeah.
So everything fell apart, man. I wasn't a good husband. I wasn't a good father. My marriage fell apart and everything was just on the wayside. I was like, this thing sucks. I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. And it took a lot of years, like 3 years, to finally sit back and go, oh, wow, I am the common denominator in all of my problems. Either I created it or I allowed it to, kind of be continuously in my life, we'll call it. I didn't change anything.
You invited it.
Yeah, I had to have that realization. And when you do that, you're then confronted with an option. Do I look at myself and fix it, or do I look at myself and distract myself? Sex, drugs, women, men, whatever. You go crazy. A lot of people get stuck in that cycle for the rest of their life. And I'm thankful that for me, I was able to look at myself and go, I got to fix this. And so it started with me doing dark work. And this is where I have a process we call a dark work experience. It quite literally is a guided flow we go through that sets people up to be able to execute a 90-day window of specifics that are tied to your life, designed specific to what you want an identity to be in the future. For me at that time, it was just me doing the thing. And what it was for the first time intentionally going, I got to be better, and going, okay, I got to go through the 3 steps. First step is respect the light. I had to respect what the vision was I wanted at the end. What does the light look like to step into it? What is that clear picture? So I could palpably connect to it. I need to be able to taste what it was, right? Then I got to respect those who are already in the light. Who is the person doing what I want to do? Whether I like how they're doing it or not, I got to respect part of it. And I got to respect what it's going to take to get there. So, because respect means to admire, right? I get to admire, understand. If you admire something, it's like, gosh, I admire the amount of work it's going to take. Now I knew it. Now I go, great. I know what I want. Who's had it? Now I got to go to the next day, which is I got to design my dark. Now, the hard part for a lot of people is we talked about doing things just to do things. And you never know if it's going to be the right things you're doing. So for me, I go, I gotta actually design what this is going to look like. So I would design my days and my evenings and what I would do. And I designed everything of what would happen when I went to like the next stage of trying stuff. And it was a lot of weird things. But I knew it was things that would help me get out of the place I was at, apologies that had to be made, conversations that had to be had, just had to take place. But in doing so, like I knew what had to be done. And now I went dark. I went away from the world. It wasn't everything on the internet watching me, and I wasn't having to do things for the claps and applause. There was no more football. It was just me doing the work, and nobody watched. It was just me behind the scenes. But because of the work I did in the dark, people got to see the light. And then once you've done this dark work experience, you've tucked away and you've literally just hunkered down and worked, you start developing a different sense of self. There's a purity to yourself, of confidence, of self-esteem, what you're capable of doing that no one can take from you. No words can strip you of it. It's yours and you own it because you did the work to buy it. It's yours. Then you emerge. The emergence is a piece where some people will drop the ball too. They'll do all this work to go run a triathlon and then not run the triathlon. That's craziness, right? What you committed to getting done, now it's time to step in the light and do it. But you haven't yet understood that you are no longer who you were when you stepped into the experience. So the previous you, might be scared to go to this thing, but you aren't the previous you. And so it's now you actually commit to doing what you promised you're going to do. And then in the moments when it's all on the line and you want to stop, and old you would have, you draw on your darkness. DOYD, draw on your darkness. You hunker down, you find that different place. When they look at you, they should be like, this person's not even in their body right now. Like, I know they're here in front of me, but they are somewhere else pulling on something else. And you get through it. You get the sale, get the job, whatever it is. It's like you're like on that flow state, right? Mm-hmm. And when you do that, you actually get to live the life we're talking about. The freedom, the purity of just sense of self, the integrity, knowing that what you did in the dark allowed you to shine in the light. And it's an amazing feeling because no one can strip it from you. And then now you get to actually experience the life that you keep hearing people talk about.
Mm. No one can take it from you, that freedom, the prosperity. DOYD, draw on your darkness.
Draw on your darkness, dog.
So I'm not going to let you go just yet, but I wish I could go as deep as I'd like. How do people learn more from you, go through this 90-day process, the whole shabam? Where should they go? We'll say it again at the end, but I want to bring it up because I can't go as deep as I'd like on it with you today.
Yeah, no worries, man. Just go to anthonytrucks.com or at anthonytrucks on Instagram. It's the best way to find me.
Perfect. And show notes, my writer, he's a G. It's all going to be there. He's the king. I'm going to ask you one personal question, and then we'll go into the rapid fire round, which the audience loves. I thought I got him here today. I can ask him one personal question.
Yeah, why not, man? Let's do it.
Without giving you the whole life story, last year, I lost my mother, 2022 at the time we're recording this, August 2022. Sweetest, kindest, most compassionate woman I've ever met. She had struggled with multiple sclerosis, MS, my whole life, most of her life. And I know similar thing you went through a similar thing. When I was listening to this interview with you on impact theory, where you brought this up, I did the math, and I was 31, and I think you were pretty much around the same age when you went through a similar experience.
I was 30 when Mom passed away. Yeah.
What have you learned from all that? What do you take from that? What would you say to me?
It's crazy because there's a lot you could say. One, I question how I lived in a way that would, make her episodes less. And I go like, and then I have a part to play. And I'm a man of faith. I believe God had a plan and it all worked out as supposed to. But I do believe that I think when I look at the moments of life I lived, I go, this woman, she passed away and her body robbed her of her ability to be great. Like she couldn't walk, talk, run, live her life. And she was confined within her own skin. Imagine like being confined in your own body. And then I took a look at my life, and the time when she passed, I was in a really bad place. And I go, how is it that I have my health, my ability to move and groove and live life, and I am not living a life that's as great as it truly could be? I'm not fulfilling any part of my true potential. And I have the capabilities to do so. So it's taught me this mentality, which is, it was tied to my mom's, but it's a statement. And it says, the worst person you should ever meet in your deathbed is a person you could have been. Right. So it's this thought of, for me, if I don't know what I'm supposed to 100% be doing. I got an inkling of what I'm here for because it aligns and it feels ridiculously good. But for me, I go, there's always going to be life presenting you with crazy, cool ideas and opportunities. And we end up messing the plan up. Like it's all there. We mess it up with fear, lack of preparation, doing oddball things. We're given free will. And so for me, I learned like I need to wake up every day and whatever that thing isn't supposed to do and it feels right, go do it. Whether it seems hard or not, you go do it. Because some people aren't given the opportunity to wake up today. My mom being one of them, your mom being one of them. So for us, like, while we're here, man, we got to do the best we can to make sure when we show up on our deathbed someday, we're the one telling the story about a cool life, not hearing, some mythological person who could have been us telling us what it could have been.
Listen, thank you for that. As I said, it's a question for me, but I think the listener at home, we're all tearing up inside. Some people probably are tearing up, and blessed to have you here, man. The audience loves the rapid fire round. We go short, sweet, first thing that comes to mind. You can expand. I'm not going to cut you off, but it's kind of like whose line is it anyway, where the points don't matter.
All right, Banana 17 F1 race car.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, Banana 17. We'll do that. There's a fun improv exercise where you take random words and then you create like a scene. We'll do that later. So I'm curious. Favorite NFL player or coach to work alongside of?
Coach Tom was a good coach, man. He went one of my favorites. He had a good way of approaching the game and a good way of approaching the players who played the game. My first day actually at practice, head coaches don't usually talk to you. They just don't, especially a guy like me. I'm just a low level guy coming in. I remember just standing there watching practice, and at one point looked to my right, he's standing shoulder to shoulder. I look at him kind of like he sees me like I'm taken back. He goes, what's going on? I go, I don't know. I literally said, head coaches don't usually just come talk to people. He goes, it's hard enough for you to get in this league. I'm not going to make it hard for you to be here. Now, that's to a point, right? You got to work hard. They're going to push you. But it's like the level of like, I'm not talking to you hard. Like he wasn't about that. So he's a good human. It is a good job of trying to make great football players, but also like be a great human.
You can reiterate something you've already said if you need to, but what would you consider to be the biggest shift in your life?
Realizing it's okay to suck, man. Nothing wrong with admitting that you're not that great. I think the world we live in of this facade of you have to be amazing at all times and you can never show a chink in the armor. That's the worst thing you can do because you never give yourself permission to improve. And so for me, I think it's just giving myself permission to improve.
Other side of the coin, proudest moment of your life.
Proudest? Oh man, it was whenever I was I have a lot of proud moments, but one of the proudest ones is whenever I got to go back to the place my wife and I got married with the kids when we got back together after our divorce. Because it's kind of like full circle going to the place we were all at. I took a picture of my son on my shoulder like I did when he was 4, but now he's like 14. He's draped over my shoulder. But it's just, I think for me, all the things we do in life, I speak and talk, I'll be this podcast and it's cool. And I think people, they desire to climb to this height. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a great level of impact. But I do this stuff so that I feel really, really good about the life I live. But also I do it so I can actually go spend time with the people who care deeply about what happens to me. Like when we get off of this, there's nothing wrong. Like you're going to think about me for maybe an hour and you're going to go back to your life. That's okay. Person listen to this podcast right now and listen to it cool. And then look at a video, but that they're going to go back to their life. For me, if I don't have, when I go back to my life, a great life behind the scenes, it's heavy because it's short lived to have this feeling of like, I'm amazing. Right. And so I just want to live a life that feels real good, that feels at peace. And I think I'm doing that.
Mm. We'll do one more. This is a fun one. So we'll say Oprah calls you up and she says, I've been following you. I love what you're doing. I want to facilitate creating a movie about your shift story, about your life story.
Yeah.
Who would you recommend or wish to play you in that film?
Well, wouldn't be Will Smith because I don't be slapping people like that. So who would be a good person to play the role?
It could be Dwayne.
Maybe like a Michael B. Jordan kind of dude. I mean, I'm better looking than him, but he doesn't have to know that. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, I just think a guy who has range because I'm a weird dude and do different stuff, but it's a believable character. I feel like Michael B. might be a good fit.
Love that.
And obviously, I'm choosing a black guy. Like I'm not gonna be like, Leonardo DiCaprio. That'd be weird. You know what I'm saying?
Michael Cera or whatever, some skinny white dude.
Yeah, it'd be odd.
Yeah, you mentioned this, like people will go on with their day. They might forget this podcast entirely. I don't want that to happen. I like to use the term integration assignment or integration work based on all the shit we talked about today. Give someone an assignment. This is not just infotainment. We actually want them to take even just a 1% step in that direction. Give someone an assignment to take what they learned today and actually go out and do it.
Yeah, go ask the person in your life that you respect, they like you. Say, hey, I need you to tell me one thing about myself that you would improve and why. And I'm not going to get mad. I don't rebut. I won't refute. I won't justify. I would just like to know what area that I need to adjust to be better that you have not told me out of fear of my response.
I've loved enjoying, this time with you, my man. Tell us one more time. I'm going to go deeper. If anyone wants to jump on board and learn more from you with me, where should they go?
At Anthony Trucks, man. Instagram, simplest way to come find me.
Appreciate you coming on, dude.